Hey, clinking of the glasses. See, if you guys were watching, you'd get the joke. Welcome back to Beyond the Basement, the complete Attack on Titan podcast. We are on episode 21.
21.
Girl meets boy, boy meets girl, girl versus boy, something like that. What was yours? That was the best one?
Yeah, it was boy meets girl.
That boy meets girl. That's what I was trying to say, but I ruined it. Anyway, thank you for joining us. This is another very special episode because, again, if you were watching, you would know that there is not just the three of us here today. There's a fourth man in the fire. Here he is, back by popular demand.
It is I.
It is he.
The tall one.
The Titan in our midst. The Daniel.
Here to represent.
I love you guys. Thank you very much for watching us.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. And to my left is the wounded in battle or in bed, not sure exactly which.
That sounds awkward.
The Rachel.
We need an explanation for that now because that sounded weird.
Rachel's
You guys don't hurt yourselves while you're asleep?
She wounded herself in her sleep because no one makes her bleed her own blood.
Yeah, just
Indeed.
me. Just me.
They call me Eric, and they call him, I don't know what they call you.
They called me a lot of things when I was growing up. But just don't call me late for dinner.
Okay.
But my name is Peter.
We won't call you that. Or Shirley. All right, so we're on episode 21.
The crushing blow.
The crushing blow. We are near the end of season 1. We're in the last few episodes. And let me tell you, if you don't watch this episode and think, dang, it's worth, like if this isn't like a if you watch this episode and don't have a strong sense of satisfaction during specifically the fight scene, I'm just going to tell you to quit now. Like I want you to listen to this podcast. Like I want you to continue to enjoy the show with us. But if you can't like find great joy in the punches thrown here,
I'll go one further. I'll say, go take the psychopath test.
Yeah.
Because only someone without emotions.
Test.
Yeah,
That's sociopaths.
Well,
Don't
it might be
Yeah.
killers.
all the above. Maybe they're both.
Go take the sociopath test.
There you go.
And then take the psychopath test. And then take 2 and call me in the morning.
Indeed.
We don't know what 2 those are, but you should take them.
You take them 2 to the chest, maybe? I don't know.
To the chest.
Dang.
Two victims, 2 aspirin. We don't know.
Harm
It's
anyone.
something.
Please, internet.
Mostly peaceful.
Please, Media Matters, if you ever listen to this, just know that was entirely facetious. Okay, so quick recap of the episode. This one starts off, obviously the last one left off, with the female Titan. I got it right this time.
Well done.
The female Titan, you remember she did her scream, and the scream called a bunch of the Titans to herself, and they started to eat her up, and the scouts that are nearby are trying to ward them off, but there's really no point. It's just chaos, and they basically like, okay, we have to give up. So as Erwin gives the command to retreat, and everybody starts fleeing, we get this little clip of Erwin basically saying like, he's talking to Hanji, and he's like, I think that somebody could be in our midst still. I think that whoever this was could have the ability to de-transform, shift out of Titan form, blend back in with the scouts, which is what their theory was in the first place, and then perhaps retransform and become a threat again, that's right where this episode picks up. Then at the end of the last episode, we saw Gunther get killed. He's one of the scouts. That was one of the elite scouts, actually. He gets killed by somebody, a hooded figure, who's also dressed up as a scout, killed with the blades. Not even as a scout. Yeah. Just like this. Again, if you were watching, you would see the majestic hood, the ominous hood that graces Daniel's head.
With the beard sticking out. They didn't have a beard.
Yeah. The masked person didn't have
the masked person. Anyway, so this episode basically carries on with the female Titan does reappear, kills a bunch of Eren's now close friends who are the elite scouts that were protecting him, and then Eren goes buck wild and is like, listen, it's done, folks. It's time. It is my time to make a good decision. And he freaking transforms, and then we get the epic Titan battle. They go for it for a while. There is... We'll continue on this theme later, but there's not a wasted frame in here. Every bit of action, enjoyable as it is to watch just as action, but almost all of it is still speaking to these stories. So anyway, Titan battle takes place. Eren does his typical kind of reckless thing. Female Titan appears to be an extremely skilled fighter. We find out not just a special powered athletic, but also very good technique. And in the end, she wins. She gets Eren and takes off with him in her mouth. Or so we think. That's what Mikasa seems to think, that he's still alive. And to be continued pretty much after that point. So that's our recap. We've got some serious spoilers to get into. This might end up being a long episode because the spoiler section is going to go for a second because we had some weighty discussions after/during the watching of this episode. So let's take it from square one here with Erwin basically giving us a big clue about who the Titan Shifters are pretty much right away, which is, he says when the Colossal Titan showed up, he basically has deduced whoever it was must have had ODM gear so that they could escape in the steam that quickly, which is a pretty big revelation, actually. Yeah. Thoughts? Anyone? Okay, just me. He just nods at me. He's like, "Oh yeah, no, it's just you. You're the only one."
He said that specifically?
Yeah, he actually says that. He says when the Colossal Titan showed up, our theory is that he had ODM gear, and that's how he escaped in the steam.
Oh, really?
Where were you guys?
I must have missed that part.
Okay, well, I'll just keep talking about that.
There was like a whole discussion about how when Eren comes out, he still had clothes on, and so like obviously the transformation doesn't destroy clothes, so you could surmise that the person had ODM gear, and that's how they got away.
That's how the Titan person got away, not the Colossal Titan.
Yeah, he's saying that because the Colossal Titan had Trost, kicks in the wall, and then disappears in the steam.
I remember when he was talking about the female Titan. I just didn't remember when he tied it back to the Colossal Titan. I must have been cleaning out a cannon on the wall.
I think it connects the dots to both, at least. Maybe not, but at least to her for sure.
Yeah, so now we know that there's a hooded figure with ODM gear, and we suspect this is the same figure that most likely took out Sonny and Bean.
Yeah,
yes,
use ODM gear.
Because we know that person used ODM gear.
Right. Mm-hmm. And now that person is obviously pretty skilled, and that person is coming after Eren.
Yeah. And if you pay attention to our earlier episodes, so I think it's 2 episodes ago now of the actual series here, they basically clue you into this exact thing, or Armin clues us in pretty heavily that whoever this female Titan person is, A, they're probably a shifter, and then now we figure out that, okay, that's definitely the case, and that B, whoever this person is probably in the in-group, so to speak, is probably somebody we know.
Someone who watched Eren transform.
Somebody who probably knows who Eren is. Somebody who was probably a scout at some point, or at least knows how to use ODM gear, so military of some kind.
Yeah, and they make a really good point. They say that Erwin says, or I think Hanji says to Erwin, but when Eren came out of his Titan stuff, he was unconscious and he was like barely capable. He didn't remember anything. And they said, well, Eren's a novice. This is like only the first time that we know of that he's done this. It'd be a mistake to think that he was the standard. And it's like, yeah, possibly. What if, so stay with me here, you did this a lot. And maybe on your 900th time, you're a little better than your first time.
Yep.
It's like, oh, well, we didn't think about it like an RPG. Maybe you can level up your Titan abilities. Maybe you can get stronger. Maybe you can get faster. Maybe you can get quicker transformations. And maybe you can be more in control later on. Because remember, Eren wasn't in control his first time. He's given way to his primal desires just to swing on dudes, right? But later on, Armin, with that speech, wakes him up. Remember, outside the walls, the mountains, the lakes of lava. Remember those things. Eren wakes up. He gets the motivation. He's all of a sudden thinking inside of the Titan, full control. He's Hulk with full control. He has that ability. So now we know that's not just possible for Eren. It's probably possible for all the other Titan shifters, full in control of their capacities, and probably a lot better at it than Eren is.
I think Erwin mentions the idea that there's that ability to we make our assumptions. Pardon. There are assumptions made off of Eren, which is, I think, exactly what you're saying. Like, what abilities, where is that limited to? Like, what abilities that Titans have can actually be trained to be better, harder, faster, and they don't know. Yeah.
And the female Titan has already displayed some...
Yeah, do you want to go over the abilities?
Unusual stuff? I mean, yeah, let's hit it. Let's talk about it for a second. So female Titan specifically, we know, by this point, that this is not just a dummy. This is a Titan shifter. So this is a person inside of...
Clothed in the flesh of a Titan.
Yeah, clothed in the flesh. So this is a Transformer. So that's unique thing number 1. So whoever this is like Eren. Unique thing number 2, speed. She's able to run extremely fast, like outrun horses. So she's faster than all these other dumb Titans that are running around. Okay, unique, perhaps number 3 is I'm just going to go with fighting technique generally, or just skill, period. Her skill to deal with the scouts is incredible. She puts away with them, almost all of them, with the exception of some of the elites and Mikasa in this episode. She pretty much deals with them without much of an issue. Next special skill is going to be, I guess this goes, we already said intelligence, right? She can protect the nape of her neck.
Yeah.
That's how we know there's probably somebody in there, because she's got the hand on the back. But this hardening ability, which shows up multiple times in this episode. Has it already?
Yes.
She hasn't done it before, did she? Do it before?
I think she did it once before, right?
I think she may have in the last episode. There was some.
Nonetheless, she can harden.
Nonetheless, I don't know. Because they break their blades on her hands.
Yeah.
When she's protecting her nape.
Yeah.
So I think she does do it in the previous episode. So this ability to sort of harden her defenses in certain areas into this crystal-looking substance that's impenetrable to at least the blades that the scouts are using. And then finally, this weird scream thing. Shriek, whatever, that seems to draw the dumb titans to her. And in this case, they seem to do exactly what she wants them to do, which is they begin to eat at her flesh. So those are some special freaking powers.
Yeah.
There's one.
And
is there one more?
Well, I don't know if it's a power or if it's just her training, but when they gouge out both of her eyes, she seems to focus her healing ability in one side, so she can at least see out of one eye.
Yeah, I think it appears that all Titans can heal. It appears that all Titans are strong and all Titans can run, to some degree. Their physical abilities vary. But for sure, for this Titan, it doesn't look like Eren can harden his skin at all. I guess we'll find out later. But it doesn't look like Eren can heal, but it looks like she has the ability to kind of like focus healing.
Like do it on purpose, whereas him is sort of incidental.
Yeah, exactly. And then she has that Titan Shriek ability, which we're not sure if that's specific to her. Eren did do a Titan type shriek. Remember when he first transforms?
He does a lot of yelling too,
and a lot of people try to run after him. So we're not sure. Is like, do you just make noise, or is that a specific Titan ability? Do Titans not like noise?
I know a lot of people that can yell really loud and get people's attention.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean
doesn't make you special.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
There are a lot of people out there that can shriek really loud. I know some guys.
Trust me.
But the thing about
bounce.
her abilities is she knows and obviously has a good handle on her abilities in combat. Eren doesn't know jack. It'd be great even to know what all of his abilities are. Do you know what he doesn't even know what his abilities are, and he's trying to fight to protect his and avenge his dead friends, and doesn't have all his abilities. She's like hardening and doing these cool stuff, and I'm like, man, that'd be cool to know.
She's actually thinking while she's fighting, as opposed to just trying to bash
just throw the biggest
things
hits.
as hard as possible, breaking off her hands and stuff like that.
So let's get more into that. I want to save the fighting discussion of the fighting part here. We're going to go somewhat chronologically here, but that's a worthwhile discussion because, again, without doing the spoilers, even if you have seen this before, those are things that should be the whole ability kind of list or whatever. They play very much into the story. Again, it's not just for the sake of like breaking down the action. So one of the next things I want to touch on here is, so we get this quick cut to Armin, and as we've discussed before, Armin is to us, the audience, a what's it called? Is like
he's
a weather
sort of
vane?
like a narrator sometimes.
Yeah, he's helping.
Weather vane.
His intelligence
he's explaining
and his commentary is helping us figure out and kind of follow along with some of the more nuanced part of the story and kind of get to the conclusions that he's making. And so one of the things that he says here is he starts to discuss. He's talking to Jean, I think, right?
Yes, him and Jean are talking about what's going on.
And they cut to him real quick, and Armin says, why didn't because remember now, there's been 2 attacks on humanity actually. So the very first one, episode 1, Colossal Titan breaks in the. Remember these little alcoves. He breaks in the alcove wall on the outermost part of the wall.
Shigashina,
yeah, and then the Armored Titan breaks through the next portion, which is that kind of more inner part of the wall. So that's the outermost wall. While Rose, I always get them backwards. All Rose, right?
I think so.
So while Rose is the one that's been compromised, right? So humanity for the last 5 years has just lived without that territory. Period. Then second attack happens. Colossal shows up, does the same exact stuff, but guess who doesn't show up?
The Armored Titan.
The Armored Titan. There's not a second attack, and Armin's theory that he gives us here really quick is that he says something distracted them. And Jean's like, Eren's transformation? And he basically said, Armin essentially confirms it. He says, I think that I think that's what changed the path, changed the direction there. Is the fact that Eren transformed, and then more specifically, did they get into it here? Where's the part where they say that they conclude that it must have been somebody who? They do right there, right?
That's Armin basically concludes that whoever is in the woods with them right now, that's inside the female Titan body, was on the roof with them that day when it happened.
Saw Eren
transform the very first time.
Yeah,
it was someone with them, and John's like,
so somebody. It's a pretty small number of people, and the reason I'm pointing this out is watching this through again. Like, I've actually watched the first season a couple times, but watching it through again with the foreknowledge and looking for these, they actually tell you a lot more than you think they're telling you. It's confusing because it's hard to connect the dots, but the amount of information getting thrown out there is enormous. So I'm just going to tell you, as a non-spoiler, but just if you're a first timer, you can watch all these previous episodes and go do the math and say, wait, it's a pretty small group of people that could potentially be these Titan shifters who are in our midst.
But that's why this show has so much rewatchability.
Right.
It's so masterfully written because there's so many things, so many Easter eggs hidden and planted that you really wouldn't notice the first time. Sometimes, some of you notice the second time, and for me, like this third time, I'm like,
third time through, yeah.
Now I see everyone. Maybe not even everything. Maybe maybe season 4 will.
That's why we rely on you guys in the comments,
keeping us
/emails. Is you guys actually were, which legitimately thank you. And if you're noticing them right now, beyondthebasementpodcast@gmail.com, or if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, hit us up in the comments section. We try and request there be no manga spoilers. I understand there will be some at some point, but sticking within the storyline up to season 3 of the show, like, fill us in on, again, especially if you speak Japanese. Holy smokes, please help. If you know a Japanese speaking watcher of the show, send them to our podcast.
Yeah.
Anyway,
please educate us.
Indubitably.
All right, so yeah, Armin gives us the conclusion that we're starting to kind of hone in on who Titan shifter lady is, and he's actually suggesting at this point that there's more than one, and he seems to also be saying that not only is it more than one, but it's actually perhaps the other Titans that we assume are shifters are also in our midst. So it's a pretty big accusation.
It's pretty dangerous to be throwing that around. And Armin obviously is pretty ahead of the times, but we know that Armin, Erwin, some of the most leading minds when it comes to kind of strategy and kind of figuring things out. So all I know is, if I was friends with Armin in real life, I'd be like, hey bro, what stocks are you investing in right now? Like, what do you think about the market? You get Bitcoin? What kind of, when we look at crypto wise, because this guy's, he's finding the patterns. He's unlocking the mysteries, unearthing intrigue. This guy is, he's getting down, and he's got some great insight, and he's really helping us as an audience really like put 2 and 2 together. And thank you, Sayama, for the gift of Armin.
The gift of Armin to humanity.
Just give him a haircut, please.
He needs it. He's a little, anyway.
So he says then, we must surmise that if, I think this is Erwin, but he says, we must surmise that if a Titan can maintain their form when they de-transform, and the person can kind of like maintain their ability, their faculties.
Mm-hmm. It's possible
that they could
retransform
into the Titan power.
And who knows what that time period in between the two even is. And so, of course, as he's saying that, you're kind of watching. I love the way they do this last episode and this one. They do a lot of this where Erwin and the gang are in one part of the woods and not fully aware of, like, obviously it's big woods, and all these scouts heading back, and as he's like speaking, we're kind of watching his words come true. He's like a prophet of sorts, or just, you know what I mean. And so so the next part here, which is worth watching, is kind of, Erwin's giving his commentary. We actually watched the hooded figure that we've already seen kill Gunther. They kind of cut back to that, and whoa, was that you? Hooded figure?
I didn't say anything. I didn't.
Yeah, but you have a hood on that looks a lot like.
I mean, we all have these hoods. I just was the only one who wore it.
Well, that's suspicious at best. So I think the killer is in our midst.
I'm naturally tall, okay? Why are you asking me all these questions?
He's come to speak for his people. The other side.
So the thing that the hooded figure shows back up. Eren's squad is clearly now under threat of whoever this person is. They've never seen Gunther dead, and are like, what the heck's going on? And then Erwin's giving his like words of like, I think they can transform again, and then boom, back on the scene after what minutes? Like, how long do you figure?
I don't know, half an hour, 20 minutes maybe,
or less. I don't know.
The person. We don't know if it's she or he, but when she's a Titan, she's a she. Anyway,
good point.
When they're a Titan, words are hard, okay? Anyway, the point is, the person has had enough time to kill someone, at least one person.
Yeah. Fire the green smoke.
And fly through the woods for a long time, and recover somewhat. So it's been some time.
So it's not instantaneous, but it's the same day at the very least. So
but how much does that gotta suck? Erwin is like, okay, I've got this master plan. I'm gonna set it up weeks in advance, right? I'm gonna go ahead and go to the courtroom. I'm gonna have to make my play in the courtroom. If everything goes perfectly, I'll get the go ahead to have this 57th expedition. I'm gonna go out from this side. I'm gonna tell certain people where certain things is. I'm gonna plant false information. Yes, I'm the only one with the real plans. I'm gonna set this up. I'm gonna haul out supplies, but my supplies are really the thing to capture, Titans, And then when we find out where the Titan, where she came from, we'll know. We'll be able to track back which unit she was in, who's feeding the information, where she came from, okay? Now we lure her, so many lives are lost, but we finally got her. We lured her all the way into the forest, right? We finally got here after months and weeks and everything and all the sweat and blood and tears, and we got here and we trapped her in your face. And she's like, I'd rather die than give information. He's like, okay, respect. 10 minutes later, she's like, I'm a Titan again. You're like, God, come on! It took me so long! It's gotta be frustrating.
For sure. So
we just captured you 5 minutes ago, and now you're loose, and now you're a Titan again, and we don't have 6 more weeks to friggin' get you on the hook again.
Yeah, to figure out an entirely brand new plan. So this is where. Go ahead. You have something to say, Mr. Titan, sir? You take the mic.
I do, but it ties into your very next point about the Erwin quote, so I don't want to spoil it.
Okay, I'll recap it for a second. I want you to jump in. So we get to this next part where, if Armin is our source of information about sort of the intrigue of the show, he's our weather vane pointing to where things are headed, then Erwin is our like moral compass, perhaps, or he serves a similar purpose, but it's not exactly the same. Erwin is our source of good quotes, actually. That's what that really comes down to. So Erwin actually says here, I want to see if I can get this correct. So, all right, female Titan begins her attack. She attacks the squad that Eren is in. And as she's doing so, they're like, Eren, get out of here. We're going to protect you. And then it cuts really quickly over to Commander Erwin. And Commander Erwin is basically saying, this enemy, I don't think we can overcome if what we do is stick to the best, quote, the best course of action. This is an enemy where we need to be willing to take serious risks when necessary and be willing to lose everything in a fight. So he says that line, and then I kind of caught this time. I had missed it before, but then they cut back to the squad. So now we're back with Eren and the squad, who's under attack from the female Titan again. And the first thing Eld says, which is one of the Titans, is, Eren, this is the best course of action. We can't risk losing you. So he says the exact opposite of what Erwin just said. Don't follow the best course of action, take risks. Because the next guy is like, we can't take any risks. This is the best course of action.
Well, because Eld is trying to stick to the plan. He's trying to be a good soldier, but he's not thinking like Armin is. He's not thinking like Erwin is. He's not thinking, wait a second. This enemy is one that we have to risk everything to be able to beat. Mm-hmm.
Daniel.
So it's like you previously said, like Erwin's plan didn't go the way he wanted. He set it up. And it's like all this planning. You got the government approval. You got the funds. You got the munitions. You got all these spiky barbed,
new technology.
Yeah. And it just goes off without a hitch, and you got her. And then she gets away, And Erwin says something in that moment when she calls out to the other Titans, and it just hit me when you're saying it. He says she was willing to risk everything. Mm-hmm. She was willing to risk everything to keep that information under wraps. Mm-hmm. And the next thing we hear from Erwin is, we can't do our plan.
Yeah,
we have to risk.
We have to risk everything.
Yeah.
If they're going to risk everything, you have to, we have to risk everything.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Humanity is not in a position where they've got the advantage. They've got the city surrounded. They can starve out the enemy. They can wait out. They don't have that bigger army. Mm-hmm. They don't have better technology. They don't have the position to be calling the shots. They're barely surviving as it goes, right? Mm-hmm. And he's saying we don't have the ability to play it safe anymore, right? If our enemy is even more so willing to take risks to kill themselves, to sacrifice, to win, we have to be even more ruthless. We have to be willing to take even more risk. Without risk, there was no reward.
Yeah. It's like, okay, so I'm using this analogy because I just watched a UFC fight. I think it was the last time is Kimbo Slice versus Houston. What's his name? Houston something.
Houston Alexander.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the fight is interesting because
Kimbo.
Yeah. So I don't know which card it would have been.
It's a while ago, but
it would have been old. Nonetheless, Kimbo Slice doing his thing. He's a giant beast of a man and one of the coolest people to watch fight, I think. But this fight is one of those ones. It's not a title fight, so it's 3 rounds. And this happens at UFC sometimes where 2 really big, tough-looking dudes show up and for like an entire round don't even throw a punch at each other because they're both sizing each other up or they're like afraid, and there's this like dance happening. You're like, come on, guys, like throw a punch, like fight. But they're both so scared of each other or something, right? There's multiple reasons, but they're both so scared. There's this like mutual, like, okay, so neither of us are going to do anything.
No one wants to make a mistake.
No one wants to make a mistake. No one wants to go in and take the first risk. It's like bidding on a car or on something. It's like the saying is whoever throws out the first number loses. And the thing is that's kind of life, but it's definitely war. Whenever you're in a battle, you have to be willing to take risks. And the thing about risks is sometimes you win and sometimes you don't. And risks are something that if you're going to take them, which you have to in order to win a fight, you want them to be calculated, right? And so it's kind of just ingrained in human nature that we have what they call a risk aversion. And the different people have different types and levels of risk aversion. And so in a scenario like this with Commander Erwin, he's thinking very tactically. He's thinking very big picture. He's thinking risks, not like one UFC fighter to the next, but risks like what can humanity gain or lose based on what my decisions are here? Because he's pretty well aware that his decisions affect everybody. So again, back to the UFC example, when these 2 fighters, Kimbo and Houston, finally go at each other, they finally actually start throwing some punches. They're both getting hit, but they're both landing punches, right? So now they're both taking more risks, but they're also getting more reward. And so the thing here is that is the weight. That's what Erwin is dealing with. That's what every character is dealing with in war is risk and reward. What do I lose? What do I gain? And it tends to be that the aggressor wins the fight. The person willing to risk more wins the fight. It's true in gambling. It's true in sports. It's true in war. It's true in all. I mean, D-Day. It was an enormous risk in World War II. There are so many tactical moves that we look back in history. Again, in warfare, it's an easy example, but it's true in business as well, of people who take big risks and those risks pay off and ultimately give them the victory. And that's the conclusion that Erwin is coming to right here, which is, I was calculated this whole time. He's actually kind of almost assessing his own weakness. We've been calculated in our risks so far. And not just that, we've been calculated in our sacrifices. We knew we were going to give up soldiers for this. But what he's saying is, we have not gone far enough. I've underestimated the enemy and their willingness to take risks and their willingness to go the extra length to win this fight. And I think this is the point at which we should all realize, watch the show and go, this is not a mystery. This isn't a whodunit. This is a war.
Yep. Everyone's been anteing up this whole time. He's like, it's time to go all in.
There was a guy, it reminds me of in Jeopardy a while back. There was almost a new record holder.
Oh yeah.
Of all time. He got I don't know what it was like. Somebody will correct me and that's fine. 30 some million. I don't know. I'm throwing out a number off of
millions
of
of
Jeopardy.
dollars. Yeah.
Maybe
a lot of money. A lot of Jeopardy money.
A lot of money. And he was professionally a sports gambler. So he would actually bet on sports games, which, he's probably out of a job right now. But he would bet on sports games, and that's how he made his living. And after he basically stopped, he was on SportsCenter, and they did an interview, and he was asked, what did you do? Like, what's your method to the madness? Like, what do you actually do? And he said, well, I read a book that was written apparently about pressing the button and how to press the button. Like, that's the first thing you did, which is like, what is that about? And of course, they have topics to study about before the show, and he would do that. And then he would say, I would always just push the button. And
he's the first one to take the risk,
without whether or not he knew the answer, he would push the button. And he'd study really hard, before, because they're given the topics before, how much ever time before the night. But he would always try to be the first one to push the button, and he was gambling on himself that he would know the answer. And he said, well, isn't that hard? What if you lose? And he said, if I can win 51% of the time, I'm on top.
Yeah, that's all it takes.
And it blew my mind. Like, I thought, if I believe in myself 51% in something, like, this is, I don't know. This show does this to me every single time. There's so many life lessons.
That's why we love it.
Like, this is one out of many just in this episode.
Dilemmas, leadership, morality,
ethics,
war, ethics, all of it is in this show, which is why it's so fun.
And are you willing to risk on yourself 51%? Believe in yourself 51%. And
push the
button. That's all that is required. And he said most people, the other interesting thing, he said most people, they'll lose on a bet on a game if they lose, a big one. If you lose $5,000 on one bet, people start to shy away. But that's just one bet. If you stop there, yes, you fail. It's after you lose. Are you going to go again? Are you going to risk again?
Because that's what's just happened in the show right here. That the point we're talking about is they did just take a gamble, going out into the woods, doing the whole plan, trying to draw out a shifting titan, a shifter or whatever. Like, all these things are calculated risks, and they've lost soldiers and stuff. And then they thought they had, from what is it, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat or whatever. They think they have that moment, and then boom, it's gone in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Erwin is aware he just lost.
Yeah. And
the thing he's aware of is, I need to push the button first. I lost because I didn't push the button first. I lost because I didn't take the bigger risk. Mm-hmm. I took the lesser risk, and I'm getting outplayed by an opponent who's willing to take more risk.
It's getting back up on the horse, like you're saying. It's going right back after that big risk. But also, we don't support online gambling addictions. If you have an issue,
if you have a problem, I know there's a hotline for that.
But I was going to say, it reminds me of Gattaca. It's a movie about
great movie.
Everybody gets in the future, genetically modified in the womb, so there's no more issues with kids. Everyone always is perfect. No heart issues, no congenital issues, which we always think and pray for that. But this guy he was of the last generation who didn't get that, and so everyone after him is completely perfect,
except for this dude.
And he's not. He's got a heart condition.
He's normal,
and he's always wanted to be able to go, be an astronaut, and he can't because there's a chance that your heart might fail, and so they'll go with these other perfect genetic people. But they won't go with him, and he's growing up. Just a couple years older than this genetically modified perfect brother. I don't remember who it was actually, but they're friends. And so this guy's genetically modified. So he's faster, he's stronger, he's smarter.
He can literally do everything.
He can literally do everything better. And he's always the non-perfect guy is always challenging the perfect guy to challenges all the time. He's trying to get better. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. Like, math says you can't, kid, right? Uh-huh. But there's one thing he can always beat the perfect guy in, and it's they see who can swim out the farthest into the tide, and then whoever swims the farthest is the winner. And so they're going, and finally the perfect guy says, "No, I got to turn back. I got to turn back. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?" And he turns back first, and the guy who's not perfect stays out there longer, and he comes back, and he's like, "That's right, I'm the winner." And when they're older, they finally figure it out, and he says, "How come you're always able to beat me? I went as far as I could until I wasn't going to be able to make it back." And he says, "That's why I was able to beat you. I never saved anything for the swim back.
Yeah,
I risked it all. I put everything down." And sometimes when you're too calculated, you're too worried about the risk, you're too worried about the trip back, you don't give everything you have. Mm-hmm. And we're going to see that not only here in Erwin, he's going to start pushing the button. he's going to flip the switch and say, okay, it's time to start hitting these guys as hard as we can, risking everything. But we're also going to see that in a fighting style, Eren versus female Titan in the future. And it's really great.
All right, so moving on here. Let's
Can I quick?
Yeah, jump in.
So we're not promoting gambling. We're promoting believe in yourself, 51%, and do the risks that actually make sense in your life that are healthy.
All right, so let's move on here in the show because I kind of want to get to there's one more big kind of like moral or ethical point that I wanted to hit on as well. So, all right, so Erwin gets his speech, and he's basically justifying what Eren is about to do. So what happens next is this is the scene where Petra, Elds, what's the other one? Tongue-bitey guy.
Yeah, I don't remember his name.
I can never say his name. Anyway, they're like, hey, Eren, move on. And like I said, we're juxtaposing Erwin's statement of, best course of action is not the best way. And anyway, we already went over that. So they go into this fight saying, Eren, you move on. We're going to defend you. And they actually put up a really good fight against the female Titan. They are coordinated, some of the best scouts, and they lose. They get freaking pummeled. She kills all of them, which is really sad. And, I'm sure you're well aware of this many episodes of the show. The characters you like, don't like them too much. Just a tip. You're probably going to lose them. Let her go. Anyway, Marco is dead. Sad. Rip. Yes, this is a true salute to you, Marco. So they all get freaking wrecked, and Eren is running away and watching all of this happen, and the female Titan brutally just outplays all of them. But one of the things they do in the process is they cut her eyes out. They're actually really strategic. They cut her eyes out. They know they're not going to get to the nape, but they cut her eyes out first, and then they start chopping her up. Like, oh, she's covering the nape. Now we're going to chop her arms up, the muscles and stuff up, so that her arms are useless, and she has to drop her arms. The unfortunate thing is...
I was just going to say, it looks pretty good there for a minute. You're like, yes, they're winning. And even Eren is like, I'm not going to look back anymore. And the music gets super epic. And then...
Eld gets shot. An eye comes back. And this is what we were talking about earlier, is this weird power she seems to have to like sort of focus her healing abilities on a certain area. So she gets one eye back. And that's all it takes. And then before you know it, she starts getting use of her arms back. And
first she chomps Eld right out of the air, and that's what makes everything start to fall apart.
Ugh, it's hard to watch. It really is, because I like these characters. Anyway, so they all get freaking jacked.
Petra loses her mind, and then she stands up and then stomps her, and then the last guy, who I can't remember his name.
He's trying to act
tongue-bitey guy. Yeah. He's like, I will avenge you, and that's when she gets her. I just moved my arm, that hurt. Anyway. That's when she gets her arms back.
Your healing powers aren't quite as quick.
She hardens her nape. And
focus your healing powers, Rachel.
That's right.
I can't. I'm not a Titan. Dang it.
She hardens her nape, so his blades break.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He's going to get her, and then that's when we see her harden her nape.
So, at this point, all hope is lost, question mark, or is it? So, Eren looks back, and we get this. This is the next kind of, like, big point of, like, moral dilemma. That is one of the most, I think this is one of the most interesting in the entire show. So bookmark this episode. What happens here is we play off of some advice that Levi gave to Eren 2 episodes ago. So as they're going into the forest, you'll remember Eren sees the female Titan chasing and thinks, I should transform right now. And his friends around him, which are these scouts that we just watched die in this episode, but his friends around him at the time are like, no, trust the captain, trust the orders, trust the game plan, trust this is the best course of action. Trust us. Trust us. That's what we want from you right now, is we need you to trust us. So don't do this. Just know this is all part of the master plan. And in that scenario, we're led to believe that that's the ethic we should follow in that episode, because it does work. It does work that time. He trusts them, and it does all work out. He trusts Levi, and he's like, okay, so I'm learning to trust my teammates, which would be something that we in the West would ascribe to, saying, it's a team game, be a team player, that's how you're going to win, so on and so forth. However, in that moment, one of the oddly persuasive things that gets said is by Captain Levi. He says to Eren, I actually don't know what the right choice is for you right now, and I've never known whether or not it is better to trust myself, to put some trust in myself, or to trust my comrades. And the reason this is so fascinating is because it gets brought up again in this episode. Eren actually has a flashback to Levi saying that twice in the same episode. He's a flashback to that same line. He's like, I don't know, should I better trust myself or my teammates? And the first time around, it was the right decision because they caught her. But was it? And Eren starts to kind of doubt that. And the second time around, Eren is now looking at all these other people who have died, and he says, I could have helped. I could have contributed. Like, they actually almost had her. What if they almost beat her without me? What if I was there and I had transformed, I was using my full power? We could have got her. We could have saved their lives. We could have killed her. And so now he's having these regrets, and he has that flashback to Levi's statement. Is it better to trust everyone else? Is it better to trust myself? And the answer, in all simple technicality, is it depends, right? I hate that answer from people. Like, is it better to do this or that? It depends on the situation, which that is the correct answer. But what I'm saying is it's worth going deep and kind of meditating on this for a second, because there are genuinely times in life when it is better to take the advice of someone wiser and older, and people tell you, don't take the risk. We need you to, smarter to do this, that, or the other. And there are also times that you need to set aside what looks like conventional wisdom and say to your closest friends and confidants, the people who are further along in the journey, sometimes the correct answer is to say, love you, but no, I got to go cut out on my own. I got to go take a risk. If nobody ever did that, there's no Apple computer. If nobody ever did that, there's no United States. If everybody always played it with, okay, trust the teammates, do the conventional wisdom, stick with the course of action, which is what this episode was almost saying the exact opposite of 2 episodes ago. 2 episodes ago is, it's best to trust your team and go with your family and go with like, if you can have the self-control to do that, you can do anything. And in this episode, it's like, nope, sometimes you got to buck that. And sometimes you got to go with where Erwin is basically telling us to go, which is the best course of action wasn't the best course of action. And fighting, calculated isn't the best way to, what we need to do is take a big risk, and the key word there that Erwin uses is when necessary. And that is how you lead your own life. That is how you make the decisions that are going to change your own life. Is you have to come to you are the decision maker, but there will come points in your life when you have to say it's necessary. Now is the necessary time. Now is the time where I throw out popular opinion and go with what I know in my gut to be true. Go ahead.
Preach.
Too many risks, your life is chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Not enough risk, you never get anything done.
Yeah.
Depends.
I'm like waiting because I wanted to say, they didn't echo it in this episode, but Levi said after all of that, do whichever one you will regret the least. And I think that is worth revisiting, because Eren, after that, comes to the conclusion that he made a mistake in trusting them the first time, which he didn't, I don't think. And he starts to go to the extreme, like, I can't ever rely on other people. I have to always do it myself.
Which is incorrect.
Which is a trap. You can't do that. You have to find which one you will regret the least. And if he had transformed sooner, they wouldn't have caught her at all, because he would have been in the way. So it would have been a mistake the first time, but this time he should have fought with them. But this
time they had her on the ropes.
It was a mistake to listen to them,
and he would have made the difference.
They were overconfident in their skill, and they needed him, and they needed to be willing to risk losing everything to win, and they weren't.
And he makes a correct statement. A lot of times there's a lot of self-blaming in this show, especially with Eren, but he goes, it's my fault they're dead. Kind of true, at least in this case.
But then he says that none of that matters. Actually, it's your fault.
Yeah, right. Yeah, when he's actually fighting.
Because you think about, like, okay,
he says,
why shouldn't I have stopped those robbers who broke into my house?
Oh,
why shouldn't Spider-Man
have
stopped the robber who killed?
Such a good analogy.
Why shouldn't I have done that? And there's that moral dilemma, but it always has to go back to one thing. Why should have that robber killed somebody?
What he says is, it's my fault, but it's your fault more.
Yeah. Good English, Eren.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, ultimately, it's like,
but accurate.
When we're faced with hard decisions, are we going to make the right decision? And that's hard on us. But ultimately, what it goes back to is, who put us in hard decisions? Was it some criminal? Because ultimately, the fault is with them. And it's what I was saying a couple episodes ago. It's like, dropping a bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's like so sad. So many lives lost so quickly. Terrible. But whose fault is that?
Yeah, who started the war?
Is it the U.S.?
Yeah.
Or is it the crazy
Imperial Army
in Japan? Is it Hitler, a fascist who rose up, tried to take over the world? Who started it? Well, you guys kind of started it, so actually it's that blood's on your hands. You know, we do what we had to do to try to save lives.
Yeah.
And as terrible as it is, you always have to go back to, well, I should have done this, I should have done that. It's like, actually, female Titan, you shouldn't have attacked us, and so I'm going to make you pay for that.
And then we get to the satisfying part. Sorry, do you have another thought? I don't want to jump ahead too quick here.
I was gonna make you're fine. I was gonna make another one last point about that. About like, he says in one of those flashbacks, make a choice. I felt like the point was make a choice and commit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you're gonna say something about this, just stop.
No,
me.
go ahead. Go.
Make a choice and commit. I think a lot of times, especially like, man, this show makes me think about my life.
Yeah, same.
Make a choice and commit. Like once you make a choice, go for it and see it all the way. And sometimes the circumstances will change. Like when Eren turns around, circumstances have changed. Those guys are being slaughtered. They're not actually gonna make it, which really means, you know, she's gonna catch up with Eren eventually, you know. So in that moment, him turning back was the right choice. And a lot of times, like, I don't know about you guys, but I'll make a choice, I'll commit, circumstance will change, it'll start going wrong, somebody will do something else that's bad towards me, I'll get sabotaged, or just circumstances change, and I'll go, it's my fault, right? But Levi says in that flashback, he goes, I don't know what's going to happen.
You'll never know the alternative. Make the decision.
Make the decision now. Commit to it. Deal with the risks and the possible bad things that could happen as the result.
Yeah.
And change it when circumstances change. And give yourself grace to do that. Don't just be like, well, it's all my fault. I made a risk. Yeah. Don't stop. Like, don't stop. You know, and I think that's, you know, the idea of what was that phrase we were talking beforehand? Hindsight.
Hindsight's 20/20.
Wisdom is known by her children.
Wisdom is known by her children.
Yeah.
You don't know wisdom until after wisdom.
Yeah.
You do the wisdom, and you're not sure if it's wisdom until afterwards. So don't judge yourself too harshly until things pan out.
Yeah.
But what you're saying kind of goes hand in hand with the king and I. The king, they all call him a barbarian because he's got these old ways, and he's fighting to kind of bring some progress into their land, and he's caught between the old way and all his people who want to do things the old way and the new way of the new world and how we should do, and he's got so much indecision, he freaks out, and they said, you know, don't worry about them, they're all calling you a barbarian king, and he says the worst kind of barbarian king is a weak king. One who's indecisive.
Yeah.
That's the worst kind of barbarian. You'll do the most damage if you're indecisive.
To everyone,
especially if you're in control, and especially if you're in leadership. Going back to our leadership discussions, we see that happen several times where the leaders freak out, make bad decisions, and everyone suffers on their account. And you know what we're saying about Eren, trying to figure out, okay, what do I do? Do I do this? Do I do that? I can only trust in myself, or should I trust in my team? It depends on the situation, obviously, and we know after which way was the right way. But he's already learned to start putting his trust into other people. This is a decision to, hey, you can't put all your trust in other people. Bring it back a little bit. But remember when he was thinking about hopping over the wall and going to the basement himself when he stopped the cannonball.
Yeah,
he had to trust Armin and had to trust Mikasa. And they're like, no, Eren, don't run off. He's like, I've got two ways of doing this. One is I'm going to take this thing myself and go crazy. Two is I'm going to put my trust in somebody else and see if Armin gets the job done.
And Armin becomes a clutch.
So we see the balance.
So there is. You didn't know you're going to get this kind of wisdom today, did you? Congratulations, everyone. Welcome to the show. So let's see here. We're at the point where Eren transforms. Bites, goes for it, says some epic lines, which you kind of pretty much covered, and then we get into the fight. And there's a lot less commentary for us to give. That's why I wanted to spend more time on our last two topics, because there's just more words to be said about this. But this part is just kind of for your own enjoyment, for your own watching pleasure.
Get some popcorn.
Yeah, animation is great. The fighting sequences are great. We'll be talking about this a lot more probably in the future, but it's the creator, his name.
Hajime Isayama.
I always rely on Pete to say it. He apparently is into mixed martial arts and has studied, and so a lot of the fighting, all of the stuff you actually watch going on in the Titan fights, and yes, there will be more of them, praise God, is stuff out of the textbook of actual fights. So it's actually really interesting to watch when you think of it from that perspective.
And if I can say one thing about this is sometimes you watch anime and they're like, what happened? some
That's
crazy
it.
thing happened and this person came. It's like, that's because you don't know how to fight and you don't know how to draw that or write that fight scene at all, right?
Yeah.
And so some people will actually have to go work with a fight coordinator. Why? Because most Hollywood dudes sitting in a room drawing things, they've never been in a fight ever in their lives. So like, well, maybe if a punch comes crazy and you're like, no, that would never work
That's
in real
not how it
life,
works.
right? So
That's how you get the Jean-Claude Van Damme, this move.
The battle axe. Oh,
the battle
no.
axe. If you're not watching, it's a very pitiful move that
does
knocks
that-
guys out in movies.
How does that hurt anybody? Anyway, so this is obviously not the case with Isayama, where these fights look real. Kansas and I were looking.
They're based in reality.
The female Titan throws a spinning wheel kick that is like perfect, and before she even threw it, we're like, she's setting up for this kick right now. We could tell by
Just
her
by the
stance.
body
we could
stance.
tell by-
Slides her foot.
yeah, and
Tell what she's gonna do.
so this fight is beautiful. It's choreographed correctly. It makes sense to your brain.
It
It's
is a
not insulting.
logical fight, and one of the things we've kind of already hit on this, but one of the differences that we're seeing here is Eren has passion and strength. The female Titan has got poise and technique, and that is very obvious. And even with her arms still down, because she hasn't fully recovered those things yet, Eren's throwing punches, and she's like bobbing and weaving and just doing these kind of boxer type moves.
Head movement OP.
Head movement is great. And so she's got moves to deal with him, and he gets his licks in though because he's throwing down hard.
That's the difference of the fighting styles. Is sometimes when you're a brown belt and you're going up against a blue belt, you're like, I know exactly what this guy's going to do. I know every path he's going to take, and I'm going to shut him down completely. He can do nothing. And sometimes you're a brown belt, you go up against a white belt, and it's more dangerous because
white
you
belt's
have
gonna go
no
all right.
idea what he's going to do. And
Yeah.
he's going to do the craziest, weirdest thing ever. And this is
Unpredictable.
This is the female Titan right now. She is fighting against an unpredictable opponent. She's got perfect fighting style. She's calculated. She's controlled. And then here's Eren. It's like, you have no idea how much anger I have that I'm about to throw in this freaking haymaker right now. And she underestimates him a couple times.
The thing that sucks, though, is that if you think back to when they were in training, he trained with Annie and all those other people that were really skilled fighters, and he ended up being top of the class, only second to Mikasa in hand-to-hand combat.
Right, they said
so
that.
if he
Eren
would
was
just
one of the
freaking
best.
calm down and use his dang brain, he could fight skilled, but he's not doing that. He's just going off raw. Because, right before he bites his hand, he says, I'm going to kill you. He's
We're gonna get to
not
that. We're gonna get to
thinking.
that, yeah.
He's not using his head. He's losing his cool and just trying to destroy. And, that's what's frustrating to me sometimes. I'm like,
Yeah.
dang it, Eren, you know how to fight better than this.
Yeah.
You let your emotions get control of your fight, and you're not going to fight well.
Can I just say though that the passion moments here, again, that's part of the satisfying part, is Eren like roaring in her face even when he's already broken one of his arms, because he's going for the ground and pound again. He's getting licks in. He's got the ground game. He gets her down. He starts throwing. He throws a crazy punch directly into the ground, like breaks his forearm, and is like, I don't even
Compound
freaking
fracture.
care.
Not the thing to do.
No.
You think this bothers me? I'll do it again.
Yeah,
I'll keep my
I'll do
own
the other
car.
arm.
That's what I'm saying.
And then he like looks in the face and is like, "Bah!" like sobbing on her, like
the
I
mental
legitimately thought he was going to bite her face off
Yeah,
for
yeah.
a
I
thought
second.
he was too.
I kind of wanted him to.
But what about when she lands some really skillful moves, right? And she like hardens. It's like, you can't be bringing a weapon into this fight. We're hand to hand right now. She hardens, right? And she like breaks his jaw, and she's like, that'll serve you. And he's like, nope, I don't even care, right? I'm willing to take the huge risk right now. And he lands that freaking uppercut to the
What about the part
midsection.
when he's
yeah. That the
She
way
lives off the ground like 5 feet. And you're like, justice, baby.
Yeah,
Falcon
there's
punch!
that part, like he doesn't even flinch. She like punches his jaw off, and he slides his teeth
Across
up
her
her
arm.
arm,
Yeah.
so he
Gross.
can land a hit.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
No, like you can't make it up. Somebody did make it up, but I was like, this is as good a fight as you'll ever get, even in real
You
can't.
can't buy toughness. You
He's
can't
like
buy
a
grit.
bulldog.
Yeah.
Rip Kimbo.
Yeah.
Talk about tough.
I do think it's possible. Like I hear what you were saying about combat, and if he wouldn't lose his cool, like it's always like in jujitsu.
That raw power.
Yes, focus.
Head.
Focus your emotion. Like there's a huge. I'm sorry if I bust some DBZ fans here, but everybody's like, use your emotion. Like
Yeah.
That
we
is
think-
that is what gets sold to you in anime a lot.
Yeah.
You gotta harness it. It's a
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah.
Because if you have no emotion, you can still be good, but sometimes you get a little bit of zest,
Uh-huh.
and you gotta put a lot of control on that zest, right?
Yes.
And if you do, man, you're dangerous.
Yeah.
Laser.
Yeah. Because if you let that go, and that's what he was doing. Like he was throwing direct punches into the ground. You either need to pull those punches or swing to the side.
Yeah.
Don't
or throw elbows
every
time.
Or elbows. Yes,
it's so hard for me to not watch every fight and go. But if you threw an elbow right here, it would be perfect. And they never did. Well, not never. Yeah. Later, I'm not spoiling anything, but later there will be elbows. Yeah. So. Eren during the fight, he drops a few lines. He says some of the regret lines. He says, if only I had transformed earlier, we could have caught her. Is actually one of these. He said, if only it's my fault they're dead. And then he says, it's my fault, but it's your fault more. And then he says, right around the roaring part, he says, I'm gonna tear you apart. Piece by
That's
piece.
When he's like,
yeah, and he just like, he has the most brutal lines. Like, I'm gonna rip you apart piece by piece. I'm gonna freaking
his eyes
eat
are like
you.
rolling back in his head, and he's like quivering with rage.
It's hilarious.
And she's like, I'm crapping my pants if I had pants, but she doesn't have pants.
There's such a art to drawing a fictional Titan shifter character and putting some emotion on the face.
Yeah.
But the female Titan is like, I should be worried, shouldn't I? Like, that's the look on the face.
Her facial expression barely changes, but it's enough you're like, oh, dang.
If she could turn pale,
right.
she would have turned pale right there.
Because she's so cold the rest of the time, but this time she's like, ooh. It's like actually on her face.
What's funny is, like, I don't know about you guys, but whenever I've seen red and I'm like super pissed and I'm like, I'm going to kill somebody, I'm never eloquent at all. I'm not like, I'm going to kill you and cut you up. And I'm like,
that's what he's doing with this Titan thing. Yeah. Okay, so fight happens. The jaw gets punched off. They both pretty much get gassed here at the end, or at least that's what it sort of looks like. And then we get this final moment where the female Titan starts to run off injured. Eren is obviously injured. He's missing his lower jaw. And then she turns around with this like
hip checks her and cracks her hip.
Yeah, he goes to throw a knee, which, come on, elbow. You can throw a knee, but you can't throw the elbows, bro. Anyway, he goes to throw a knee, hits a tree. Maybe he wounds himself.
His hip split open a little bit when he hit that tree. I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah.
And that's why he stops at that tree and leans on it, is because they show like a line across his hip and blood explodes out of it because he kicked so hard that he broke his hip.
I mean, kneeing into a solid object is
especially full force like that.
Good idea.
So
should have done the roundhouse.
Knee gets thrown, and then he's behind this tree, and you get one of the coolest moments again. She sets up for this backwards spinning roundhouse crazy kick.
Think, honestly, she's starting to run away because she's still so freaked out from when he had her pinned.
But she sees he's injured.
And then she realized, like, she hears him screaming, "Ah!" And she realizes, I have to do something, or he's going to chase me down.
So, anyway, this episode basically comes to an end right here because Eren's head gets kicked directly off. Like, cut in half. The way they show it the first time, it looks like it cuts his head in half. And
his hand.
And the hand, and the tree. The assumption here, again, the position that she's in, it looks like she's throwing a roundhouse kick backward. That's what
spinning wheel kick.
Spinning wheel kick. That's what I was trying to say. And I'm assuming that not only is it happening very quickly and with a lot of force, but the hardening ability that she showed earlier, where she throws a punch with that's actually she gets the jaw or whatever. I think that's what's happening right there. I think she hardens the heel and then swings that kick around and then just wrecks, takes the head off.
I think that's what you see her when she stops. She's thinking, how can I win?
Yeah.
And she makes a plan and then turns around to face him.
So crazy.
So she gets this finishing move off on Eren, then goes in for the bite. Well, did she peel out with her hand first? I can't really remember. Anyway,
bites.
his body is there, and she goes to bite him, and then Mikasa shows up right that second. Mikasa, always late to the show. And she's like, "No, Eren!" And let me just say, one of the many things in life that you should not do. There's a lot of dumb things. Drinking and driving, like, you shouldn't do that. That's dumb. Like, you should never do that. I don't know.
Peeing on an electric fence.
Peeing on an electric fence, stealing a bear's cubs. Like, you should not do those things. Messing with Eren in any kind of way while Mikasa's like around.
Bad idea.
I wouldn't recommend it. Not recommend it. So Mikasa's like, give him back. And then she actually also does her, says something extremely brutal. What's her line? She says, I'm going to cut you up and break you into pieces and whatever, I'm
going to slice your body apart.
I'm going to slice your body apart. But she basically pulls an Eren and it says something extremely violent that she's going to do to the female Titan. And so she's running off, and as she's running off, Mikasa's like, well, give him back. And she goes in and does Mikasa stuff, which we've already seen, which is she's the best. Mikasa is the best. Levi's the best. Mikasa's the best. I don't know. But this moment...
They're the female and the male best.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes. But this moment, Mikasa is the best. And again, as an individual, so we're not even talking like the squad of 3 or 4 that were facing the female Titan earlier. We're talking just one. Just Mikasa. And she starts to work her. She actually gets her to trip. Like she actually does some, again, the kind of like the fear in the eyes. You get a little bit of that. So she shreds her a little bit, but can't quite seal the deal. Breaks her blades and is like, oh, you know, what the heck is going on? Because this is Mikasa's first interaction with the Titan as well. All she knows is that she just saw it eat Eren. And then Levi shows up, is like, hey, hang on a second. Hang back for a second. Let's keep this distance. Look at how slow she's running. We know she's running out of like energy, which you would assume after a big fight, after all this, so on and so forth.
He says she bit the whole nape.
Looks like she bit the entire
pointing
nape.
out that he's alive in there still.
We think Eren's alive in there, which Eren has survived a lot so far. So I'm going to go with he's probably still alive.
He already got eaten once. They came back from that, so he's good.
Yeah, he's totally good. Is Eren dead? Is that not then to be continued? So that's where it drops. And that is, there you go. There's one of your big Titan fight episodes. I promise you stick around. You get a couple more of some of the best. Season 2 really does have some of the best fights.
Really gratifying, yeah.
Which we're almost there. Anyway, that is the end of section 1. And we appreciate you watching. We appreciate you listening. Shoot us an email, beyondthebasementpodcast@gmail.com. Seriously, hit us up in the YouTube comments. Thank you to everybody if you're watching this right now or listening right now, and you've hit us up in the comments and watched on YouTube and so on. Seriously, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah,
All the
really
commentary,
appreciate
it. It's been very positive so far, and
thanks, guys.
It means a lot to us, and so thank you for that. And keep it up. Keep up the good work. Go leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and all the places, and tell your friends. No, seriously, go tell your friends that they're AOT fans. So, with that said, you have got approximately 2.5 seconds to put your phone away if you don't want to hear what happens next, because we're gonna get into it for a second. I know it's already been a long episode, but
it's like throwing salt.
We've got extra
on some dirt.
Yeah.
It is just gonna spoil.
It's gonna spoil straight up
everything.
This is gonna be like 6-week-old milk. Okay, we're talking.
Think of every fermented food done wrong.
That's how spoiler is going to be. All right, so put your phone away. We're going to get into the spoilers. We'll make it a little shorter because it's been a long episode. But we love you guys.
Thank you.
We will see you in the next episode.
Alert.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. All right, so we have to come out and say it.
I'm so sorry.
Me too.
I'm so sorry.
I tried to salvage the first couple spoilers by bringing up a certain person in context, but then
in this episode, to be fair, he does say right when she's about to kick him. We know it's Annie. It's freaking Annie.
It's
I'm
Annie.
sorry.
I'm disappointed.
I'm
disappointed in my comrades.
Later.
Well, you know what?
Can we bleep them?
I can. You guys are going to make me go back through over an hour's worth of
I'm so
episodes to find the
sorry.
exact second where you guys gave away. All right, so
It was two times for me.
it's 2 times.
Yes, one's for you.
If you've been watching,
You didn't even realize what you
I
did either.
You were going deep into the spoilers.
Cut.
You should just bleep his whole
I said you should just bleep his whole sentence out when he's talking about Annie and like the fighting in the background. You just have
just
it
a full on,
completely
like he's
silent.
cursing.
Cussing out the
Yeah,
world.
what?
Okay, quick backstory. Quick backstory. So was it a couple episodes ago? I think it was the last time the 3 of us were together.
episodes.
the last one.
Well, the last one was just you and I, so it's 2 ago.
No, it was when she wasn't here.
Oh, was?
Yes, because Becca
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
sent
you
me-
weren't there.
Yes. Yeah.
So not the trailer, but the last episode we did.
I'm sorry.
I went to give the recap. I'm talking the
10 seconds.
The very first
have the
thing out of my
video
mouth
of it.
was, "Well, Annie shows up."
The first thing. And this is like 2 episodes ago, so we have no idea it's Annie yet.
So by this point,
We
there's
love our
like even
fans.
less hints. Like there's no way I should be spoiling that on accident, but I did. And we were only like a few minutes into we literally were like maybe 2 minutes into the recording and like a few
lost
minutes
it.
into the live broadcast, we both just lose our crap, and I'm like, okay, cut, restart the whole thing, delete off Facebook.
So we were able
that's
to-
why I was like, man, I thought I was the absolute worst. And then in this episode,
I need to point out that I am the only
Rachel,
member of this team who is not spoiled.
Rachel.
Okay, so can I make my point
I need
now?
to decide now.
Is that everything
Yeah.
go- Okay, so my point was this: that so Rachel's point about Eren's combat was that he loses his stuff all the flipping time, and he just like goes 150%, which is why we love him, and also why he breaks his own stinking arm.
Yes.
And when he's
it's a
trying to
pattern
punch
he has.
Annie in the face, Annie, it's Annie.
Annie, it's freaking Annie. Okay. Which actually, every spoiler section we've done where this, because Annie, are you okay? You okay, Annie? Every spoiler section we've done, because this is a long series of episodes, because Female Titan showed up in like
5.
episode 16 or something.
We've
Yeah,
been
I
on
guess.
this one for a minute.
And it carries on. And every single one, when we get to the spoiler section, I'm pretty sure the first thing it says, okay, so it's Annie. And I'm like, all right, just gotta
But
get that
we've
out
been
there.
really good about not spoiling that.
This is the
this
first time
far.
it's been that
We're
bad.
sorry. We'll do better. We need you guys keeping us accountable, and we
I
appreciate
don't know
it.
if this will help y'all, but when I'm taking my notes, I put a little star next to the thing that's a spoiler so that I
Yeah.
have a visual cue.
I put a
Don't
capital.
say this.
Okay.
I put a capital thing as a spoiler, so
There's
got to
be a punishment. Kansas and I are going to have to do a punishment challenge.
I feel like if I put capital spoilers and then listed them,
Okay.
the first thing I would do would be like, Annie is the female Titan.
Oh,
Read it off.
Okay, but like, I want to point something else out since we're going to talk about spoilers. When he has her pinned on the ground and he's like freaking out and going all crazy, ow, I have to not move that. His hands grow back really fast.
Yeah.
They do, which has happened once before already.
That's an interesting point.
Hello, people.
She's off camera, but this is my beautiful
God.
wife.
I think what he's doing is trying to regenerate more energy to heal his hands quicker. That's why he's like convulsing.
I think
agree.
it's subconscious.
I think
He's so focused.
I
I
think
agree
that
with
this is a going theory. I think we can. This is not anything
when she
outrageous.
gets
But that is a good
But I
theory.
think that while in Titan form, it's like in a, I don't know, it's like in an RPG or something that you have a certain amount of mana or a certain amount of like power points or like energy points to use, and
Okay.
like they will regen over time, but they regen slowly, and you have to be judicious. Every move you do, every special move uses more, and every regular move uses a little bit. I think that it basically works like that, where whilst in Titan form, you can throw so many punches, you can throw so many kicks, but you can also only do so many hardening moves in Annie's case, or you can also only do, when you're doing the healing thing, it's like you have an energy reserve, and they're using so much of that up at different points, and that affects everything. Not only is it because like when Annie first, they down her, right, and they get her in the hooks and stuff like that, and she has the Titans come eating her. At that point, the only thing she's really done is some running, which that's energy. She's done a little bit of running and killed off a few scouts, which apparently is no problem for her. It doesn't seem like she's used that much. Like she's still got some left in the tank, and like we've said, she's skilled. She's done this before, and so that's why she's able to retransform super quick like that. And then not only that, but now be ready for combat. The problem is she retransforms, which again is going to use some energy out of that tank. And then she has to do the hardening thing a bunch of times. You get into a really intense fight with Eren. Again, there's some realism here. Like if you watch a UFC fight, especially when they're big, they'll get gassed quick, throwing heavy, crazy punches and stuff. So what I think is, obviously Levi is correct, but I'm pretty sure this is just like throughout. Like when in Titan form, there's only you have a finite resource, and like every healing thing, every special thing you're doing is using more of that.
I'm just saying, I think that super fast healing of more than one area of his body is one of his powers, is what I'm saying.
I agree. Isn't the previous episode, have we got to
interesting.
the one where we see the sort of rainbow color?
Both of his hands at the same time.
Because he does it when he's fighting Reiner later too.
Rainbow.
The little rainbow
The nerve.
skeleton nerve things kind of pop out, and then boom, his hands just like rematerialize almost instantly. I think that's one of his special powers as well.
What
And
did
I
PK
think
say?
that's why she gets scared.
Yeah.
Becca,
What did Paul say?
what did PK say?
You have a live comment. Oh,
She's fighting Titans.
Okay, listen. The truth is, I have a genetic disorder that makes me really stretchy. Here, we hold this, and I'll show everybody.
Oh,
That doesn't hurt me, okay?
That's her
But the
Titan
thing
power.
is,
Special.
my joints pop out of place really easily, and I was asleep, and my shoulder came out of place. But now I'm old, and so it hurts me more than it did when I was a kid.
So be it.
she's Wolverine.
Okay.
Does it hurt when they
Yeah,
come
go
out?
ahead.
I was going to talk about the fight and the gassing thing because I think that reveals something about the way Eren and Annie fight. So when I was revealing all the spoilers, my point was
Carry
this.
on.
Eren gets emotional. He just gives it 150%, which is why we love him. But Annie, who's aware of what she's doing, she's thinking long term, she's calm, and it comes across when Eren has mount on her. His hips are above her hips, he's on top, and he busts his hands, and he's freaking out, and Annie's just watching and dodging, right? Yeah. And then what does she do? She's waiting for the moment,
and
then she shrimps and kicks him out.
Yeah, which real move. Like hips are everything in jiu-jitsu.
Good sweep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then she gets up, he does that knee thing to the tree. She does a spinning heel kick and just destroys the tree, his face, and his hand in one perfectly executed move. But before
she sees
that,
he's down, she capitalizes.
Before that, he's like leaning on the tree, and he's he's breathing heavy. Excuse me, sorry for your mics here, getting my germs over. But he's doing that. She is focused and not breathing at all. He's gassed, and she just like heel kicks.
It's Miguel Torres, never cracking his lips, always breathing through his nose through the championship rounds.
Yeah,
getting those deep breaths, able to maintain composure instead of going ham and blowing your gas.
Yeah, and that was exactly like you were saying. The white belt. His technique wasn't there, and I think the reason we didn't see that from Annie, the reason that Eren was second is because Annie didn't fight. Like, remember the time that Reiner and Eren went after Annie during the hand-to-hand combat training was because she wasn't doing it. She wasn't displaying. She was skating by.
I think she held back for sure.
She held back. She was trying to coast.
She'd bring too much attention.
Yes, she 100% would be top of class if she had let it all hang out.
One move and it brought him way up.
And Eren finished number 2, like you said, in the class in terms of hand-to-hand combat.
She's trained in these martial arts all her whole life.
And that's how he knows it's her too. By the way.
Yeah, that's why he says.
Okay, yes. All right, let's just hit that spoiler while we're here. Big spoiler / not spoiler, but we spoiled it anyway. They spoiled it. I definitely didn't notice this until this watch through. But right before Annie throws the big kick, Eren looks her dead in the eye and looks at the stance she takes, and he goes and in the subtitles we see the capital A, and that's it. That's the only hint. So you would totally miss that in any other case because it looks like he's just exclaiming. He's like, "Oh no!" or something. He's about to say Annie. I'm fairly certain. And the thing is I think you mentioned this, Rachel, that it seems as though after the fact that he probably doesn't remember, because he doesn't remember everything. Because even now when he's more in control of his Titan than he has been, he doesn't have a perfectly clear vision, I don't think, of what's going on while he's in Titan form. So I think
he's learning.
It's like a dream.
Mm-hmm.
And when he says part of the reason he's gassed and he's lining up the kick, of course, because she's calculated. Eren's stable, not moving, good target. And then he's even more stunned because he sees the stance. And I think that's more proof of he's stunned because he realizes who it is.
And he doesn't dodge her kick because he's like,
yes,
I know who that is.
Yeah.
And he's shocked.
And the fact that he gets hit right then, is it not possible you can get a concussion while in Titan form? So maybe that's why he doesn't remember directly afterwards who it was.
Maybe.
So let's see. You want to say anything else on that? There's a couple other I've written down for spoilers.
Just the fact that what Erwin said earlier.
Yes, I was going to bring that one up.
Okay, right.
So, Erwin basically fills us in on something. Again, rewatching, you have to get through this a bunch of times to confirm. We had theories.
Yeah.
And rewatching at the beginning, oh wait, our theories are correct.
Well, a lot of my theories were incorrect, but I was throwing a lot of them out there, and some of them were correct. So I feel.
My first time through, I was wrong in a lot of stuff.
51%. Yeah. But don't get us wrong. We had a lot of wrong theories until we got more information.
So basically, it's a combination of Erwin and Armin. They both give us the hints here. The first one is Erwin says that the Colossal Titan was able to get away. He escaped in the steam because he had ODM gear with him. I had not connected those dots before. The fact that they had the ODR gear on them and with them before they even transformed, it was very well planned out. And then more specifically, where Armin says, why did they not? Because we were questioning this time through off podcast. Of course, we were questioning. Okay, wait, why didn't Reiner bust through the second wall? Why didn't he just do that immediately? So we talked about it this time, and we basically decided that in the first instance where Colossal Titan hits and then Armor Titan hits, there is some span of time. I thought they were like immediate. I thought it was like one right after the other, but it's really true when you watch the episode. It doesn't seem like that. There's enough time for people to get into boats. There's like some time certainly passes, which I'm assuming is enough time for Reiner to run on foot near the gate, or I don't know. Whatever. Point is that you would assume that was going to be the next attack, which is what Erwin was assuming as well. But Erwin notices something that we noticed, which is, wait, why didn't he bust through that gate? And I'd missed this before.
Yeah.
The reason he doesn't bust through the second gate is because something changes, or in Armin's words, distracts them in the meantime. And we put the timeline together and realized that, number one, Bertolt's missing because he's punching in the first wall.
Yeah.
Reiner is with the gang. He's with the gang that is out of gas. So they're legitimately in danger. It's him and Annie and stuff are with the gang that are running out of gas, and they're at that castle. And then Eren is transformed. And basically we're assuming like, okay, Reiner and Annie know a smart Titan. They know a shifter when they see one.
Yeah.
So they probably know, they don't know who it is specifically, but they know, wait, this is a shifter. We got to change plans. And then when they see that it's Eren,
they're really confused.
Then it's like, okay, we're changing up the plan. And so we got in this long discussion about, okay, well, what was the initial order from Marley? Like, obviously, number one, we do know from the show so far, like, one of the orders was destroy humanity. Also, it's presumed at this point, one of the other orders was find the coordinates. It seems like which we think is the founding Titan. And then also, like, if you see the attack Titan power running around, capture that as well. So you can have multiple objectives.
Lastly, royalty. If you see royalty, get Krista, get Historia, maybe the Rice family, capture them if you can. That way we can use that founding Titan power.
So the last spoiler piece I want to bring up is Eren saying to Annie in his like rage, he says, "I'm going to tear you apart." And like the final thing he says in his like weird Titan-y sounding voice at that point is, "And then I'm going to eat you." He's tapping into it right there. Yeah. I'm convinced he's tapping into the deep Titan memories.
I'm going to take your power.
I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to rip you apart, and then I'm going to eat you, because his Titan instinct, his shifting instinct, is saying, "I'm going to get your power from you."
I want that. I'm thirsty for that fluid, spinal fluid.
Ooh.
On a hot day, you're out there working hard. You're like, I could really go for some spinal fluid right about now.
No.
Not a thing.
I'm glad that Eren didn't do it. Why? Because I want Hanji to get Annie's power.
Dude.
I was thinking it'd be cool if Annie came around and kind of helped him out, and that still would be cool, but it'd be better if they freaking cut that girl's head off and they drink her spinal fluid, and Hanji becomes... I'm just over it.
No,
okay? I'm just over it. She killed too many of my friends. She killed Petra, okay? She killed Petra. She killed Marco. She killed Eld. The other guy, I hope he died anyways.
Stop the tongue bitey guy.
Yeah, I don't care. But what I'm saying is, Hanji, she could grow her eye back. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, I never put it together. Maybe that happens.
Let's go.
That'd be cool.
Hanji-san, Uber, female Titan on the Marleyan land.
I have a secret vote for somebody else gets another power. I would have a secret vote for Sasha, because I think she's like a sleeper OP.
That'd be cool.
I like her as a character, but like when she shows up like good and hard, and like really does some work. So I think it would at least be interesting. It would be unexpected for sure if in the course of the events of season 4,
Potato Girl becomes a Titan.
Potato Girl gets one of the Titan powers, and they would have to work in such a way where it's basically like happenstance. I doubt it would be like a strategic move. It would kind of just be like almost an accident, you know? Just like somebody.
Potato she eats.
Well, like she gets.
I was going to say she's making a giant sandwich. You know,
she's making a sandwich.
I can see the memes now.
She does love her meat.
Meat too much.
She's like making a sandwich, or better yet, she's like raiding like some of Marley. Like they've invaded Marley. And she's raiding to the kitchen, and then she gets captured in the process. And then while she's in prison, they decide to turn her into a dummy Titan. And then somehow in the midst of that, it's like she actually eats somebody. Yeah, eats Annie or something.
No, I'm saying when she's a Titan, she's in Titan form. She's making a giant Titan sandwich. She's like, no, Sasha, we need you to come fight. She's like, just a second, guys. Just a second. I got to make giant avocado.
A little darker. You know, I was just thinking
she's
a cow. She says a whole cow.
Right from the source.
Bites the head off. Throws it on a large house fire as a
roasts
barbecue.
it perfectly.
He's roasting a cow.
Shaking and doing your thing.
Yes, that exactly. That's exactly what I said.
Thoroughly lost it, you guys. Thank you for sticking with us.
Well,
we've gone long.
11:30 at night, and
we love you.
I am a grown-up. So
we
I
want
need
you
to go
to email us. We want you to be a part of the journey with us.
Gang sign.
We want you to watch the show because you can't see the insane antics that are happening. So go ahead and head on over to youtube.com/beyondthebasementpodcast and come join the fun. We have some special content over there, some shorter form stuff. You can also find us, of course, on Facebook. We do broadcast live. Tonight's a Saturday, but it's generally Sunday nights, and we will be broadcasting live as soon as season 4 drops. No matter where we're at in the series, we're going to try and finish through all season 3. So we're going to bust butt in the next few months to get it done before October. But plan is, regardless, as soon as season 4 drops, we're going to start doing videos on that immediately. So,
And happy Father's Day
happy Father's Day
to everybody out there. If you're watching this show and you're watching it with your kids, hopefully they're old enough to not be scarred for life. But
I hope your kids are freaking like
roasting entire
18
cows.
and have a iron stomach watching this.
Let's talk about this, though. Great father figures in Attack on Titan. Erwin.
Sure.
Yeah.
Pixis. Right? Instilling value. Grisha.
He's a good dad.
It'd be better if he, had a little better communication. But yeah, Grisha.
I know. I'm like,
He is secretive.
but even like Eren, instilling that manhood into Armin. I trust you.
Eren is an accidental dad. Yeah.
Calling people into their position. Levi a little bit. So
Amen and amen.
salute
Levi's the best
to the good
protector.
fathers
This
out
is a
there.
true salute.
Keep
you,
raising
Father.
your cadets
Okay, I did
into
it. It
scouts.
hurts. It's okay.
Oh
It's
no,
okay.
pain.
Okay, gang.
That's a true salute.
Well, we love you. We will see you in the next episode, which will probably not be as long. And if you are really stoked to see Daniel back in the ring,
Let us know.
let us know. All right, guys. See you next time. Thanks again for watching and listening. If you're enjoying the show, you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. If you're really loving it and you want some extra cool content, you can join our Patreon page over at patreon.com/beyondthebasementpodcast. Check the show notes or our social media pages for links to some really rad Attack on Titan merch. All right, guys. See you next time.